And welcome back to Pokemon Team Creation Series. One second here. Gotta fix something. If I can, we're gonna just, and come on. I want this one. Boom. Unfortunately, I am in a scenario. There we go. I had to angle that a little bit better. So in a scenario where all the images are kind of lined up in a way where I'm trying to move this, but I'm going to end up moving the other things instead. Anyway, from Geo Knuckles, we have from Gundam Rebuild Driver, or Gundam Build Driver. Not a series I'm overly particularly knowledgeable on. I'm not a Gundam person myself. We have Riku, who's the main protagonist of that series. What his Pokemon team would be. Now, when looking this up, there's really not a lot to go on with his personality. He's young, hyperactive, very agile with quick reflexes. He's, despite being a beginner, he does not fly as such. He flies as someone who's been doing this a lot longer than just being a beginner. Yeah. there's not a lot there. So I had to be a little creative here. So let's get into it. I think, though, because he's the main protagonist and he kind of gives off, honestly, you just put some Pokeballs on a belt and put them on his waist. This could be a Pokemon character. It could. I decided to go with a starter first off. His starter is a starter. I went with Sceptile, but Mega Sceptile, or Sceptile, because A, he makes friends pretty easy, and the bond between him and Sceptile would be pretty big, or Sceptile would be pretty big. 2, though, he's described as having good speed, being very fast with quick reflexes. And amongst starters, Sceptile is definitely considered among the faster of them. Add on, in fact, actually, I think Sceptile is even faster than Greninja because it's got like a 120 base speed, if I'm not mistaken. But when I was about to finish this up, I'm realizing, well, actually, because of the whole Gundam thing and there being missiles and explosives and stuff like that, go Mega Sceptile. It makes sense. He'd get to have a tail missile on there too that can regrow. So yeah, that makes sense to me. Then to match with good reflexes, and again, just a Mon that's kind of a tried and true good Mon to have, especially for someone whose primary form of fighting would be melee combat, Lucario. With his aura, his reflexes are kind of unmatched in many ways. So I would certainly say that it's probably a good fit. Add on the steel type for Gundam-ness stuff, and there you go. Next up, the last 2 of these Mon have to represent the Gundam mech itself. And technically Clawitzer also represents it. Essentially, I'm sorry, I just spoiled it. Clawitzer represents one of the cannons that it has because it has a giant F-off cannon for an arm. And it acts as such. So I felt that is actually a pretty solid entry here. I usually use Clawitzer as a way to represent someone who has like an energy attack because it can learn Aura Sphere, and his entire arm is a cannon, or claw is a cannon. So there's that. Then in terms of more towards the mech side of things, I decided to go with King Gambit. Why? Well, Bisharp, the Poniard lines are all steel dark types. They're kind of robotic looking. They definitely have a body similar to that of a mech. But beyond that, he carries his giant kowtow cleaver on his head, which can represent the sword aspect that his Gundam unit has, the several that it has. So I like that. Also, it's kind of the pinnacle of that line. I really actually like this Pokemon a lot. I have used it before. Then also, if you want to, well, the thing about Gundam Build is you're constantly capable of kind of reassembling and rebuilding your Gundams. And his Gundam goes through many different form changes. So, a steel Pokemon that has been altered to be something more formidable as a weapon. Genesect. Genesect, we know, didn't start out this way. It has been a scientifically altered Pokemon. And it carries a giant cannon. It can fly. It's got blades on its hands. So, I think that works. But then to go a little outside the box real quick here, go a little bit more towards what I initially stated, that he's a character that's considered very hyperactive and very energetic and just wanting to like do the best he can and be a part of the group. I went with Keldeo because he's supposed to represent D'Artagnan in the Three Musketeers, or among the Musketeers anyway. He is the newest Musketeer. And he's that young, rambunctious, overly zealous little kid who wants to try and make something of himself and be a part of this epic team. And that, I think, matches Keldeo pretty well, actually. So, again, we got Sceptile, Lucario, Clawitzer, King Gambit, Genesect, Keldeo. The question is, how balanced is this team? And it's actually surprisingly balanced. It does have a lot of weaknesses, but it's got way more strengths going for it. It's got a ×4 weakness to fire, because you obviously have a bug steel type, you have 2 other steel types, plus a grass type. Now, that's, if we're just looking at at standard Sceptile, it would be a ×4. However, if we are looking at it from the stance of Mega Sceptile, which is a dragon type, that actually loses its weakness to both to fire, because that becomes neutral because dragon resists fire. It does gain a ×2 weakness to ice, though, so that is a catch, and would gain a weakness to fairy. So there, it's a catch-22 on that, but it's not anything that's overly detrimental. Flying, it would still have that weakness, as does Keldeo, being a water fighting type. Ground, you got 2 just steel types in Lucario and King Gambit. Bug actually resists ground, so no weakness there. Fighting, King Gambit and Lucario. Grass, you got 2 water types, and 2 as well as 2 water types are weak to electric as well. And you have 2 mon that are weak to psychic with Keldeo and Lucario. But on the flip side of that, ground typing, you got 3 mon that are completely going to wreck ground types. 4, technically. If you want to get actually, no, sorry, not 4. Because I mistook steel as being strong. But you got 2 water and a grass type. Every mon on this team can wreck rock types. To be fair, most mon can wreck rock types. So every mon on this team can wreck rock types. Fairy, 3 of these mon are strong against fairy thanks to their steel typing. Even with having fighting and dark as a secondary type, the steel helps deal with the fairy typing. Ice, that's a little trickier. You got 3 steel types, 2 fighting types, so 4 mon altogether. Normal, 2 fighting types, takes care of the normal. 2 dark types, taken care of by the fighting types. And 2 fire types, taken care of by the water types. But now, the ever-important age-old question. How well does this team actually do in the games? Can you become champion of every single region? Let's go to the books, Jim. To start with, Kanto, it's an automatic yes. Honestly, you are going to cleave through the entire gym leaders no problem, because you start with Trico, and which means you're going to handle the first 2 gyms no problem. And Lucario is a friendship day-based evolution, which means you'll have Lucario right then and there. After that, you're even with Clawitzer for well, actually, it would be Skrelp. It would be not Skrelp. I am blanking on Clawitzer's actual pre-evolution, but you'd have that. But still, Grovyle and Lucario should be able to handle that. And after that, you're just cleaving through. Even the gyms you would theoretically have somewhat of a weakness to, like ground, for example, with Giovanni, you got 2 water types to make up for that, and a grass type. And honestly, the only Elite Four member that gives you trouble, and it's weird as hell to say it, is Bruno. Because while Bruno does have 2 rock types, okay, he's also got fighting types, which you actually don't have an inherent strength against. And, in fact, you actually have several weaknesses to. Your Lucario and King Gambit particularly because it's so slow, are insanely weak to fighting. So Bruno would actually give you a little bit of trouble. But then Agatha's no problem. Lance, would you have with Sceptile, no problem. And honestly, no joke, you would handle Blue with ease. Even if Sceptile goes down before you Mega Evolve it to the Pidgeot, you then just got to bring a Steel type out, handle that. Swap out for King Gambit to deal with Alakazam. Then Rhyhorn is just, Rhydon's easily dealt with, which leaves a mixed combination of grass, water, and fire, which you really just got to bring out. Is whenever the fire comes out, you just got to bring out your water type. And honestly, the other 2 will be handled by the other steel types. So, yeah, Kanto, that's a clean sweep, honestly. The only one he might struggle a little bit with is Bruno. Now, Johto, unfortunately, you just can't beat. You can't get through Johto, because you're going to stop, probably, honestly, at Faulkner alone, because you don't have any other mon, and you just have a Trico. Even with Absorb, Grass resists flying, and Pidgeot is a second stage, under a level second stage, but a second stage with Gust. So you're pretty screwed. There's no other way to put it. You're pretty screwed against him. And even if you manage the Miracle, you then got to deal with Bugsy, who's going to resist both Grovyle and Lucario. Even if you somehow have Metal Claw, it's not a clear win. So, yeah, no, I just don't think you get past those guys. When it comes to Hoenn, you are going to have a very easy time in Hoenn, to be honest. You're not going to struggle. The only gym you would struggle somewhat against, and it is somewhat, is Flannery. Flannery is one where you will have a problem because you still won't have Sceptile at that point. So it's still going to be Grovyle, and so it's not going to Negative Evolve and get its resistance. Lucario is weak to fire, and your Clodsir isn't fully evolved yet, and you would only have a Pawniard at this point. So Flannery is one of the only problems you have in that region. But Lucario would still be fully evolved. It's still not going to go down immediately to a fire attack unless you get hit by the Overheat. So you should be able to do Aura Sphere, take down some of the weaker small fry, and then just try to whittle away as best you can at Torkoal. So it's not impossible to beat Flannery. But then after that, all the other gems are a breeze, and all the Elite Four leading up to Drake is not a problem. But once again, Drake is a problem. He's got a Mega Salamence, which even with having Mega Sceptile as a Dragon Grass type is not going to be an easy go. One of his Flygon has Flamethrower, which obviously is a problem for the bulk of this team. And they have Earthquake as well. So Drake is not an impossibility to get through. This team is highly resistant to Dragon, but you give any of those dragons Fire-type moves, like the one Flygon, and you do have a problem on your hands. I would say, though, you can get past him. And because of that, you then just have to go through Steven. Now, Steven, you got a fighting type to deal with some of the steel types, but really the only steel types that are going down to your fighting type or rock types are going to be Lileep and Aggron. Otherwise, it's Claydol, Skarmory, Armaldo, which is a bug type that resists fighting, and Metagross with Psychic. So, it's not all of them they all have types that resist fighting. So Steven, you can get through some of it. It's going to be tough. Steven's going to be tough. It's a big maybe for Hoenn. Then in Sinnoh, because I didn't fact this in the first time, I got to rethink it real quick here. Sinnoh, honestly, you're going to have no real issue up until, no joke, you get to the Elite Four. You're going to clear through Roark, no problem, because you have Absorb on Trico. Gardenia is going to be a bit more harder to deal with, but you'll have a Grovyle at that point, and your Lucario will be up and running. You shouldn't actually really struggle with either Maylin or Fantina, honestly. Lucario should be able to pull its weight enough. Same with Grovyle. And then you'll just get through the other gyms, no problem, because you have type advantages against Byron. You have type advantages against Candace. Even Volkner, even though he's got some electric moves, isn't going to really that difficult. Aaron surprisingly is. Because this team, despite resisting Bug, is not designed to take down Bug types. And that Heracross has Brick Break on it. So King Gambit's no good and Lucario's no good. Not to mention, he's also got flying types to deal with something like your grass type. And he's got Drapion, who's not a bug type, but might as well be one. It's a dark poison type. So even though the poison moves aren't going to do anything, I believe the damn thing has Earthquake on it, if I'm not mistaken. So Aaron's going to be a problem. Can you get past him, though? Yeah, I think you can. Then the other three Elite Four members, Bertha is not going to be an issue. You got 2 water types and a grass type. Flint, 2 water types, should be fine. Lucian, you have a dark type and a bug type, you should be fine. It's okay. Cynthia. Before I changed it to Mega Sceptile, I said it was a maybe. Because Spiritomb alone is problematic. You don't have an answer. You don't have a good answer for Spiritomb at all. The best you can kind of hope for is to go King Gambit, switch out from Sceptile to King Gambit, or just go Mega Evolving and just hammer into Spiritomb as best you can, and then have to deal with the aftermath of that later on. But then if you want to switch out for something else, because she's going to go Rose Raid next, you would probably want to switch out for, I'm guessing, Genesect. But then she can just bring out Gastrodon for, or Earthquake, well, not Earth Gastrodon, but still, either Garchomp or whatever. This is gonna be a tough match. I think it's a resounding maybe. Now, with Unova, honestly, you can get through the entirety of the game, both games, with this team. Trico can handle the both gyms first, no problem. Even going up against the Fire Chili, you should still be able to handle it with Trico. Then you'll have Grovyle by the time you hit Lenora, along with Lucaria, so you'll be able to handle her no problem. And the Steel typing will help you resist Roxy's poison types. Bug type's going to be resistant to fighting and grass, sure, but you should also hopefully have a Steel type move on Lucario at that point. And the Steel typing resists bug, so you should be fine. Once we get past that point, though, you shouldn't have too many worries. Yeah, the Emolgas are going to be a problem to deal with when it comes to Grovyle and to some degree Lucario, but Steel typing comes in clutch. And after that, it's pretty much a clean sweep, and the Elite Four isn't a problem. The question becomes, can you beat the champions? Let's start with Iris. Because you can go Mega Sceptile on Hydreigon, that does help you out immensely. Now, the problem here, though, I think the only move that Sceptile learns naturally that's a dragon move, I think, is Dragon Tail. And remember, I'm not doing this from the basis of creating trying to create the best team you can in terms of like their move pool TMs or whatever. I'm talking about the moves that I always stick with the moves they can learn. So, because if that's the case, then yes, you can design any team to beat any team, no matter what, any mon to beat any mon. It's kind of, I kind of find it a little like stupid. Like, well, if you gave it this, like, well, that's not the point though. And yeah, Sceptile, I believe, does actually either surpass Greninja or is right at the same level as Greninja in terms of speed. So natural moves that Greninja can learn, or Sceptile, I keep saying Skep, but I believe it's Sceptile. Like Scepter, not Skeptic. Is there, because, yeah, this is the problem, though, with being a dragon type and not actually having TMs available in this scenario here, is that you can learn Dragon Claw from a TM. As of right now, you can, in egg moves, you can even learn Dragon Breath, and I think Dragon Tail, if I'm not mistaken. Ultra Sun Ultra move, tutor moves. You were also able to learn Dual Chop, Dragon Pulse, back in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. As of Gen 9, though, those are gone. So, wait a minute, Jellicent 7. What? What do you mean 7? No, I don't want 7. I want, oh, I know what happened. I went to, it updated Bring, so when I tried to click Scarlet and Violet, I instead clicked something else. Okay. So it still doesn't learn dragon moves naturally. Okay. Dragon Tail. Okay, Dragon Tail is one of the TMs it can learn. So you can learn Dragon Claw, and Dragon Dance, and Dragon Pulse, and Outrage. And man, and Scale Shot, and Breaking Swipe, and Dragon Cheer. So they really definitely gave Gen 9, Sceptile some favoritism in Gen 9 with the dragon moves. But more to the point, and great, now everything's freezing up. Oh, I hate when this happens. I hate when this happens because I'm trying to get back to whatever. It will fix itself in a minute because OBS is still running right now. So come on, Jesus, I really do hate when things like this happen. Anyway, so until this decides to fix itself, I'll just keep talking for the time being. So with that being said, there it is. Finally, we're back up and running, folks. We're back. Yeah, boom. Thank you for the mistake you made. Anywho, so yeah, the problem is, even though it gains the dragon typing, it does not gain dragon moves. And without dragon moves to really, at least not naturally, and without dragon moves to take advantage of that, it's actually not a good matchup against dragon Pokemon because it's now adding the dragon weakness on there. So against Iris, this thing's going down, and this thing was going down anyway. And unfortunately, that Hydreigon, honestly, is going to wreck shop on the majority of that team because it has flamethrower attached and it's a pseudo legendary. What about Alder? Well, Alder is a little bit more of a. Alder is easier to handle. For example, by going the dragon type, you now lose most of the weaknesses he has, but you gain a weakness to the Dredagon he has. And maybe you could outmatch the Excelgor, but with Bug Buzz on there too, and the fact that Dragon doesn't actually resist Bug, and the fact too that Excelgor is in fact faster than Sceptile. And in fact, I believe it's almost as fast as Mega Sceptile. So you might actually get like a speed tie issue there. You're gonna have to go into like something like Lucario or King Gambit, but the problem there is the minute you go into any of them, he's just got to bring out Volcarona and do one quiver dance, and it's over. And as I said, you don't have any moves on this team that are honestly very good against bug types. You got at least Clawitzer and Keldeo to deal with fire, but the problem there is the fact you're going to have to switch out to go even try to use that. So, yeah, you're not going to be able to beat Alder either. What about Kalos? Well, Viola's going to be a little bit of a problem. But because Trico can learn non-grass moves as well, I think you should be able to beat her. I don't think it'd be easy, but I think you can beat her. And after that, the only issue you'd have really is the Fire-type Elite Four member. Even Diantha is really not all that difficult. Yes, she has Hawlucha, and yes, it's got Flying Press, Swords Dance, and X-Scissor, and Poison Jab, among other things. But the minute you switch out into a Seal type, that Flying Press just becomes neutral. So it is a little bit of a catch-22. And then Tyrantrum being a Dragon Rock type means that Fighting type moves are going to be good against it, hence Lucario, and Steel type moves. Aurorus is no good. Gudra, though, will have bulk to it. That one you're going to have to try a little hard to get through, as well as Gorgeist. Even though you got Steel to resist, you don't actually have any typings on here that are good except for the bug typing. And then just Mega Gardevoir, who's a Psychic Fairy type. Honestly, you should be able to handle that with this team, no problem. Paldea, honestly, you get through all the gyms without any real difficulty, with the exception of one or two. B would be a little problematic because at this point in the story, you still don't have a fully evolved starter yet. You would have Lucario, but it's pretty much it's weak to fighting thanks to the Steel typing, and you have a Pawniard, which is no good here. So B might actually be where you stop. But if you can get past her, all the other gyms, including Raihan, are no problem. But once again, say it with me now, you're not getting past Leon's Dragapult. Even against Mega Sceptile, it outspeeds it. And it has Flamethrower on it. It's going to wreck through a quarter of this team. Even Mega Sceptile is going to maybe resist it. But then it can just come back with Dragon Breath or something like that. So even with Lightning Rod, that's no good except in double battles. So because it's not going to just draw the move out. So unfortunately, yeah. And then even if you get past the Dragapult, you then got to get past his Haxorus, and by that point, and plus he has Thunderbolt to deal with the water types too. The only mon you have on the team who can even resist him is Sceptile if it goes to Mega Evolve. That's it. And that thing might not even survive because you're going to bring it out against the Aegislash. You're going to have to switch out to try to take down the Aegislash. So you're probably going to bring out, weirdly enough, King Gambit because it's the only thing that's got a real type advantage here. And even then, Aegislash is going to get at least a hit in. And then then your King Gambit goes down. Then you got a Mega Evolve your Sceptile. And even then, might not go outmatch the Dragapult. So it's going to get hit with a Flamethrower, which is probably going to bring it down to about half because it doesn't have the best HP or defenses compared to a Pseudo. So, and then you're going to have to hope you can get a real hit in on that thing. And if you can't, that goes down, then that's the game. If it does go down and Sceptile's running on empty, Haxorus comes in, it's going to wipe that thing out. It's going to have a Dragon Dance off on it, and then that's going to run through a lot of your team. And that's not even talking about the remaining 3 Mon on his team. So no, Leon's a no-go. Assuming that you can get past Katie, Paldea really wouldn't be that big of an issue, but you would have to get past Hassel in the Elite Four. Now, that being said, though, Katie would still be problematic. Three bugs if you count Teddy Ursa. And the problem with that is because of the leveling of where they are, you will have Grovyle at that point, which means you will have a evolved Pokemon with better stat lines than what she has. The problem though is typing wise, you won't have the only thing you really have to do much is pound. That's it. Absorb is no good. So it's tough. It is a tough go of it. Even if you go the 2 levels I allow above, it still wouldn't be a guarantee. I think you can learn Pursuit also early on, but that's no good because it's a Dark type move. So, and then Teddy Ursa has Fury Swipes. So I'll be honest, I don't think you get past Katie. If she had maybe only 2 Mon, it'd be one thing, but she doesn't. So, yeah, I don't think you can get past Katie. Therefore, you cannot beat Paldea's Elite Four. Or Paldea's gym, and therefore you can't become the champion. And the hypothetical where you did beat her, though, you could beat all the other gyms, no problem. And then you get to the Elite Four, which the first 3 Elite Four members, not a big issue. Hassel, though, is problematic because he's a dragon type. He has Noivern, he has Dragon Algae, he has Flapple, he has Haxorus, and Excalibur. Most of those aren't too difficult, though the Haxorus will be a problem. Haxorus, frankly, should have been a pseudo. I love Hydreigon. It's a great Pokemon. It just evolves too freaking high. Whereas Haxorus doesn't have that issue. Haxorus is actually in the right level for a pseudo. So if you just upped its stats a bit, you could have made that thing a pseudo legendary. But whatever. Either way, though, that's my thoughts. What do you think? This is the team and how well I think it would do. It would actually be a pretty solid team. Like there's very few definitive no's in this team. Like hypothetically, let's just talk about it real quick. If, for example, you were able to get to the Elite Four of Johto, would this team have been able to sweep? Will would not have been a big problem. You could just use Genesect and Kingambit to kind of get through it. Koga, not a big problem. You got 3 Mon that are immune to poison. Bruno, again, he's got an upgrade team with Hypnotop and stuff like that, so kind of problematic. Then you have to deal with the dark typings on Karen's team, and she has a Houndoom, which would be problematic. So if you try to straight up do it with Lucario, she is going to Houndoom that thing. And then, but you should be able to get past it. And then Lance with 3 Dragonites with Outrage, plus Gyarados with Intimidate, plus Aerodactyl, and Charizard. The Charizard is what's going to be a big problem for your team. Anytime you have fire as a big weakness, the Charizard is always the big guy. That's the problem. But this is just my opinion. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. I'll see you guys for the next one. Later.